נו, אסף, באמת, נראה לך שזה מה שהם היו כותבים? תרד מהבהאים מהר.
תראי, אין לי ספק שמישהו מהבהאים לא ישב וגזר גזרי עיתונים כי זה סרט שהוא ראה אני לא יודע מה...
אוקיי.
אז אין לי ספק שהם לא עשו את זה.
אז מי...
אז אני נשאר עדיין עם אי הידיעה, מי שם את זה אצלי בתיבה? זה הכל.
אז אתה אומר שזה אמיתי.
אני הייתי לוקח את זה למשטרה בכל מקרה.
למשטרה? אתה רוצה לבוא עם זה למשטרה? אתה, כאילו, אתה נורא סוט... אני לא עוקבת אחריך, בוא נעשה את זה לאט. שנייה, אוקיי? צד אחד אתה אומר, זה ג'וק, פרקטיקל ג'וק של אחד מהחברים שלך, אולי. אתה הלכת אליהם, אף אחד לא זה. אתה אומר, זה לא הבהאים, אז מי מעניין אותו ויודע?
את, איתי...
יפה, אז זה אני.
אני לא יודע.
כאילו, אני אופציה. Now I know that there is no I in we. I never imagined that what started as a beautiful friendship would end up when Asaf will turn his suspicious mind on me too. Yet, there was one last thing we had to do as a we. We drove in silence up the Carmel mountain in Haifa. We were passing the point where Asaf first captivated me with a beautiful story about an underground city that lies beneath the Baha'i Gardens. 3 years we've been waiting for this moment. The gates we've seen closed so many times before were finally opening up for us. We were about to walk the grounds where Baha'u'llah had his vision for world peace. We stepped into the headquarters of the Baha'i faith, the fourth monotheistic religion of 5 million believers worldwide. Our Baha'i escort was holding the master key to all the places we so craved to see and never able to on the guided tours we took so many times before. We were passing the archive building, which was built as an exact replica of the Parthenon in Greece, the ultimate symbol of democracy.
The Baha'i faith is the first religion in the history of the world, as far as I'm aware, to function without a clergy and on a democratic basis.
While inhaling the clear air and the feeling of democracy, we thought about this young religion, which originated in Iran and out of all the places in the world, ended up building this Capitol Hill in our backyard.
Baha'is believe that where we're at right now is in an age of transition where we're moving from that society based on nation states to a global society, a society based on a global identity. Nations will eventually give up some of their sovereignty and turn it over to a world government.
The Baha'i World Center was overlooking some glorious future, and we were about to discover what lies beneath this commanding hill. Three years ago, Asaf informed me he's taking us on a trip to the Baha'i Gardens. I was excited, but little did I know that he meant sitting outside the gates in a cheap surveillance car, counting the cars that entered the garden gates. While wondering about what I was doing there, Asaf told me his life story growing up on Marcus Street next to the Baha'i Gardens. From his bedroom window, he used to stare at the obelisk that marks the place where the Baha'i will one day build a world temple. Around the time of his bar mitzvah, just when he was hitting puberty, the Baha'is started a 14-year renovation of the gardens, digging the mountain and building an underground city. All this time he failed to get in, made him anxious and determined. Asaf continued his story how in May 2001, the gardens opened to the public, and as a 28-year-old man armed with a camera, he was among the first to go in.
אפשר גם לבוא לטייל לבד ככה?
לא, אלה בהיים.
ולהם מותר לסייר?
כן, אתה רואה, יש להם תגים, רק לא לעבור את זה, בסדר?
בטח, בטח.
מה זאת עדת הבהאית? על מה היא מדברת? מה העקרונות שלה? למה חיפה? למה הר הכרמל? ולמה גנים כל כך יפים? אז ככה, עדת הבהאית היא דת יחסית צעירה שהתחילה שנת 1844. גם איש אחד באיראן, בפרס של ימינו, איראן של ימינו, נתן לעצמו כינוי של בב. מה זה בב? דלת, שער. הוא אמר דרכי תיכנס לעולם דת חדשה, ודרכי ייכנס לעולם נביא חדש. ולפי האסלאם הקלאסי, לפי הקוראן, הנביא האחרון הוא הנביא מוחמד, הדת האחרונה היא הדת המוסלמית. לכן הם החשיבו את האיש הזה שדיבר על דת חדשה, על נביא חדש, בתור איש כופר. אחרי הריגתו של הבב, קם אחד מתלמידיו שנתן, את מפריעה לי מאוד, קם אחד מתלמידיו שנתן לעצמו כינוי של בהאולlah. בהאולlah זה זוהר האל, לכן הם נקראים הבהאים או הזוהרים בכל העולם. בהאולlah היא משפחה מאוד חזקה, מאוד עמידה, שהשלטונות בפרס לא הצליחו להרוג אותו ולעשות מה שעשו לבב, אלא לקחו אותו והגלו אותו מחוץ לגבולות פרס, העבירו אותו למקום הכי נידח אז באימפריה העות'מאנית, שזה איפה? עכו, בדיוק שם. הם הכניסו אותו לתוך בית הסוהר של עכו, מהחלון של בית הסוהר היה מסתכל לכיוון הר הכרמל, איפה שאנחנו עומדים עכשיו פה. הוא ידע שהר הכרמל הוא הקדוש ליהדות, לנצרות ולאסלאם. הוא אמר, גם אני רוצה שיהיה לי חלק קדוש בהר הזה.
תגיד, הזכרת שיש את הבנייה מתחת פה. אפשר להיכנס? זאת אומרת, יש מצב?
לא ניתן להיכנס, רק מי שעובד שם נכנס לשם, אבל זה בנייני... תהיה רק בבקשה בקצב שלי.
אני שמעתי שיש פה בניין מתחת למבנים. יש אפשרות להיכנס לראות אותו?
לא, אי אפשר. הבניין הזה, אתה רואה את העיגול הזה?
כן.
זה הבניין של הספרייה.
אוקיי.
זה נראה בניין מאוד קטן, אבל זה 9 קומות מתחת לאדמה. זה אחת מהספריות הכי מפוארות בעולם. אבל רק הם נכנסים לשם.
After a few hours of sitting in the car without air condition, Asaf finally made his point. He has to become a Baha'i in order to go under the gardens. Since Asaf insisted on staying undercover, I suggested he call a Baha'i center outside of Israel. Without noticing, I was pulled into Asaf's adventure.
Good morning. I would like to become a Baha'i, and I was wondering if there's someone I could talk to that could direct me or guide me in some way.
Okay, can I ask you something? Can you write to us an email?
Write to you an email?
Just to say to us that you want to be Baha'i, and we will see if we can give you an interview.
10 days later, the Baha'i World Center in Haifa scheduled a meeting with Asaf at his Tel Aviv apartment with a Mr. Smith. Alarmed by the response of the Baha'is, Asaf wanted to make sure that no matter what happens, it will be documented. He decided to install cameras and microphones throughout the apartment. This was the chair intended for Mr. Smith.
Mr. Shafir?
Hi, how are you?
Very smooth. I did earlier, that's alright.
Fine.
Asaf's email must have left a big impression on the Baha'is, since Mr. Smith was 20 minutes early. For the first time, Asaf realized that Mr. Smith was not just a code name. Having the Deputy Secretary General of the Baha'i World Center in his living room, Asaf was confident that becoming a Baha'i member was just a secret handshake away.
If you're in Israel, the first law you have to abide by is the fact that there's no community you can join. Sorry.
And who came up with that rule?
This is Baha'u'llah himself, the Prophet. But in many ways, I think, if I was an Israeli and I had this explained to me, and of course I'm not, so forgive me for even saying it, but if I was, the way I think I would look at it is that, well, there must be some special bounty involved here, because obviously a prophet comes with a message for the world, a message like world peace. I mean, what could be more important? And yet this part of the world is prevented from being part of that community. There has to be a very good reason.
There has to be a very good reason. There has to be.
Yeah. I mean, and so it's like, a privilege to actually be part of a specially chosen place. The world center of the Baha'i faith is here. I mean, it's never going to move. It's going to be in Haifa forever. And the Israeli community is in fact doing what I think is an incredible job of defending us. Because we don't actually believe that peace can be achieved through military means. Mm-hmm. It's like, protecting a jewel. But this jewel at the moment on Mount Carmel in Haifa isn't really yet ready for exposure to the whole of the light of day of the world. Mm. When that point is reached, then I think the rules here will change.
I guess I should say this very clearly, that the conversation is within these four walls. I would not do this with anybody. The fact that your inquiry to the US website was seen as sincerely motivated means that I have been given permission to talk to you quite openly. But I would not do it with just anybody.
Asaf was disappointed. His attempt to go under the Baha'i Gardens as a Baha'i failed. Going over the tapes, I couldn't figure out why Mr. Barry Smith, the Deputy Secretary General of the Baha'i World Center, came all the way to Tel Aviv on a Friday afternoon just to say no. After all those years of being a closet private investigator, it was time to come out. I officially decided to join Asaf on his mission. The success of any good mission depends on getting all the facts. I found the only book written in Hebrew about the Baha'i faith. What caught my attention was the family feud that started some 80 years ago between the two sons of the Prophet Baha'u'llah over the control of the faith. The dispute ended with part of the family expelled. It occurred to us that this young religion must have some living descendants walking among us. Calling the author of the book to find the family of the Prophet should be a good start.
יש קתדרה אחת בעולם, היא נמצאת באוניברסיטה העברית בירושלים, ואני ראש הקתדרה.
יש סיבה שהקתדרה הזו הוקמה פה בארץ?
לא, אין שום סיבה. יש סיבה אחת. שישנו אדם אחד בארץ הזאת שחוקר באופן רציני את הבהאים, והאדם הזה החליט שהציע לאוניברסיטה העברית להקים קתדרה ללימודים בהאים. והאיש הזה מדבר איתך עכשיו.
אוקיי.
הוא גם מצא את התורם שהיה מוכן לתרום את הכסף כדי להקים את הקתדרה.
נתקלתי בספר שכתבת, אתה מזכיר שם מאוד בקצרה את המשפחה. האם כאילו אתה יודע איפה אפשר למצוא את השארי בשר של הנביא?
אין יותר.
אין יותר?
לא.
אבל זה דת נורא צעירה, לא יכול להיות שאין יותר, או שאתה אומר...
באמת אין יותר, אני לא מכיר אף אחד.
I'm the great-granddaughter of Baha'u'llah, from both sides, from my father's side and from my mother's side. Because my parents were first cousins. My grandparents were living here. This house was full of, grandparents and the children and this. So I was listening, and I had big ears. This is the family tree from Tehran. It was given to me in 1977, when I was there by the family. I'm down here somewhere.
This one?
Here.
This is...
Myself, 2 years old.
Who is this?
This is Abbas Effendi when he was young.
Really?
Yeah, he's very good looking. He was very good looking.
And this is?
This is my grandfather Muhammad Ali, the brother of Abbas Effendi.
Your grandfather?
The younger, yeah.
And
my grandfather. You read something? Where? By Hebrew University?
No. Speaking of Hebrew University.
Yeah, I know.
Professor.
Yes, Moshe Sharon, he says we are not family. I think I'll better send him a letter to say we are family.
Why would a person that is not a Baha'i would say something like that?
Well, he is the one that made the first chair of the Baha'i studies, isn't it? Maybe he's being misinformed. He doesn't even know.
There is still a living...
Yes, maybe. This is an interesting picture. I'll open for you. This is my grandfather Muhammad Ali, my Badi Allah, and the 4 sons, of course. You know, the sons are important. So there they are all standing behind, the heirs. It's a lovely picture, I think.
Which one is your father?
My father is the tall one. We are the family, and they cannot say that we are not the family, as they tell their people that come from abroad. Do not talk to them. But I think it's personally, I think it's very childish, because what are they so afraid of us for? What can we do against all? We are not interested. We are the family that are living here. The blood of Baha'u'llah runs in all the veins of the family. We are not doing anything against them. We are just living peacefully and doing exactly what Baha'u'llah told us to do. So we are Baha'is. We are true Baha'is.
When the time came to ask the Baha'is about the relatives of the Baha'u'llah, we thought of Nigar, the great-granddaughter of the founder prophet and an outcast from the Baha'i faith. Being Jews, we would love to have known the great-granddaughter of Moses.
I don't think for most Baha'is that the personalities are that important. I think for most Baha'is their loyalty is to the administrative institutions of the faith. And I think maybe it might be interesting, but I don't know that it would necessarily involve a big kind of a spiritual process or something that would be of value in and of itself because of being related to Baha'u'llah.
In every organization, particularly religious organizations, there is always some form of dealing with harmful dissidents. It certainly exists in the Catholic Church and in other religious organizations. Within the context of the Baha'i faith, those who attack the authority of the institutions, which are there to maintain the unity of the community, are expelled from the community, and the community is asked not to speak with them. And this is because disputes are forbidden in the community, and on such a fundamental issue, the best way to avoid a dispute is simply not to have a conversation.
Discovering the great-granddaughter of Baha'u'llah did not bring us closer to finding what lies beneath the Baha'i gardens. We needed to get back on track and focus on our mission. Our next step was to get the architectural plans of the gardens. We expected lack of cooperation from Haifa municipality, but it was easier than stealing a candy from a baby. We approached an architect in Tel Aviv who never saw the plans before and asked him to read it for us.
תשמעי, מה שבן אדם רואה זה מה שיש מעל הקרקע. אנחנו תכף נגיע למה שיש מתחת לקרקע. אנחנו כרגע מחזיקים פה את התוכנית, וואו, משהו 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, כן, 5.5, 6 קומות באדמה. זה כבר מעל האדמה, הנה. זה. אבל אולם המועצה הוא מתחת לאדמה. סליחה, אולם הכנסים, זה אולם כנסים. ואני רוצה לראות את התוכנית שלי. לא, אני מתחיל כבר להיות באמת כמו חידה. הנה, זה האולם. ל-200 איש, ב-250 איש אפילו. הנה, תעלות עיבור, מכונות, הכל מכונות. חדר אוכל, וואלה, יופי. חדרי הקרנה. תסתכלו. אזור משחקים לילדים, מתחת לאדמה. תחזוקה, רופא. וואו. כל זה משרת את הליבה. אם זה המבנה, זה הליבה.
מה זה אומר?
זה אומר בונקר. אומר בונקר. מקלט אטומי, בטוח. לא, אני רואה את זה כבר, זה גם מאוד ברור לי. תראה, אני עושה לי קונספירציות, כי אני דבר כזה עוד לא ראיתי בחיים שלי.
איזה סוג של קונספירציות?
זה כל מיני, אני יודע, מועצת החכמים שתשרוד בעולם אחרי השואה האקולוגית או אחרת. מה זה תיבת נוח? תיבת נוח זה הבונקר הראשון, שאני מכיר לפחות. זה פשוט, על זה לא ידעתי. את היית בפנים?
לא.
אני לא חושב שהם ייתנו למישהו להיכנס.
We now felt our obsession was not in vain. It might be a bunker. We were not willing to give up on the idea to go down there. Not us, not now. There must be people who have worked on building the place. Finding one was our next mission. One of our sources persisted on meeting us at the Jerusalem main bus terminal, where he handed us a list of people who worked for the Baha'is.
נסעתי לחיפה ברכבת. מי שאסף אותי שם מתנצל אפילו על זה שהוא אחר בכמה דקות. הוא דיבר איתי על כך שהוא מצפה שאני או ממשיכי דרכי יוכלו להמשיך לעבוד איתם לאורך 500 השנה הקרובים. מי שליווה אותי הכיר מצוין את המקום, ופשוט לקח אותי דרך מבוך, אפשר לומר כמעט, של מקלטים תת-קרקעיים. אני עבדתי בתוך אולם תת-קרקעי, אודיטוריום, state of the art, מה שנקרא. ממש המילה האחרונה בעיצוב ובאיכות של גימור. כשניסיתי לצאת מהאולם, אז הייתה שם רק דלת אחת שהובילה למסדרון שבסופו היו השירותים, וכל שאר הדלתות היו נעולות. זו תחושה של סודיות ושל צפייה מתמדת. אתה נצפה, או אתה חש נצפה. הדבר הכי קרוב שזה מזכיר לי זה משרד הנהלה של בנק גדול, של חברת הייטק גדולה, או של ארגון כמו ממשלתי, או כמו של ארגון שליטה צבאי, ברמה של, אם הייתי מגיע אי פעם לכזה מקום, כמו הבור של המטכ"ל, שמעולם לא הייתי שם ואני גם לא מתכונן להיות שם, אם לא יאלצו אותי.
There are two ways of entering a place. One is politely knocking on the front door. The other is trying the window. I guess that back then I was infatuated with the idea of the forbidden underground city, and I let Asaf convince me to try the window.
אסור לגעת בשום דבר. לא אבנים, לא פרחים, לא מים.
Instead of approaching the Baha'is directly, we joined yet another magical tour at the gardens. Maybe we could find some loopholes in this facility. Walking downhill, what stood out is the only religious building on site, the Shrine of the Bab. From the architectural plans, we knew of 4 main buildings, but could only notice 3 of them: the International Teaching Center, the Universal House of Justice, and the Archive Building. We were unable to see the library. From where they let us stand, there were no loopholes in sight, but only an army of gardeners.
это בחיים לא שתים אלכוהול, לא מעשנים ולא לוקחים סמים. והם רוצים רק שלום, והם לא משתתפים בארגונים ממשלתיים.
We were happy to find out that the Baha'i is a group that aspires for world peace and does not involve itself in government and politics. But all we could see was a place that resembled the Capitol Hill of some Western government we know.
תגידי לי, איך זה שחלק ישראלים וחלק בהאים?
כי אנחנו חברת שמירה חיצונית. הבהאים לא מאמינים בכלי נשק.
מה זאת אומרת? אז אתם נותנים לך את הכלי נשק כדי ואנחנו בתור ישראלים מאמינים גדולים בכלי נשק, אז
Our last visit to the Baha'i Gardens left us with the need to find out more about Baha'is and peace. We were surprised to read about Dr. David Kelly's suicide affair. Kelly was an MI6 agent and a weapons inspector. He was converted to the Baha'i faith by Mike Pedersen, a Baha'i who was a CIA agent and his translator in Iraq. He didn't fit to what we knew about Baha'i faith and its non-involvement in military and politics. The British government appointed Lord Hutton to investigate the circumstances of Kelly's death. In the Hutton Inquiry report, we found the testimony of the head of the Baha'i community in the UK. It seemed very strange to us that the Baha'i representative was invited to testify in the inquiry. We decided to look into it. Our investigation took yet another detour. We left the comfort of our backyard and went international. On a typical summer day in Edinburgh, we started our UK mission. We were standing at Charlotte Square, the place where Abdul Baha, the successor of Baha'u'llah, made his first public appearance, spreading the vision of the Baha'i faith to the West in 1912. We contacted a British intelligence analyst and brought him the Hutton report to read between the lines. He chose to meet us off Charlotte Square in a small hotel, which used the kilt as an interior design choice.
Dr. Kelly was a virologist. He'd worked at Porton Down, the secret British chemical weapons research establishment. He'd done tours of duty over a number of years as a UN weapons inspector in Iraq. He'd made as many as 40 trips to Iraq. It has been said information is power. Now, the situation in the Middle East, in particular in Iraq, in 1999 onwards, was dire. The only source, the only real source of concise human intelligence, HUMINT it's called, were the UN weapons inspectors. The question of David Kelly and the faith of Baha'i is increasingly interesting. Uniquely at the Hutton Inquiry, the Secretary of the Baha'i Assemblies in Great Britain gave evidence. There was also a written submission by the Baha'i faith in Britain, which was not published. Specifically, it was kept private. The fourth entry on the evidence register is Baha'i faith not for release, submission to the inquiry. So to this day, we don't know what was in that submission.
Barney Leith, the Secretary of the Baha'i National Assembly of the UK, was the only one who could tell us what was written in that unpublished submission to the inquiry. Our appointment with Mr. Leith was scheduled for the next day. London was 10 hours away, and there was no time to make any navigation mistakes. Time was of the essence. We were about to turn in when we got a call from our people in Israel, saying that the rules for the interview are now changed.
אני לא רואה איך אנחנו יכולים להצליח לקבל איתו ראיון.
Barney Leith demands in his email a list of questions and 48 hours to prepare.
כל הזמן כינן בי החשש הוא יעטל בנו בצורה שתפגע בנו. זאת אומרת, הוא שיחק אותה בטיימינג מצוין, את המשחק שח הזה מולנו.
After consulting with our people, we offered Mr. Leith a 5-minute uncut statement, and he agreed to it. You're welcome to give us the 5-minute version that addresses the question that we raised.
And the alternative is?
Well, I'm willing to have a full-length interview.
I think it's important to understand that as a community we have nothing to hide.
Since the Baha'is had nothing to hide, Mr. Leith decided to do the full-length interview. Are you ready?
Sure. As ready as I'll ever be.
Okay.
So it's 3, 2, 1. Dr. Kelly was a government scientist. He was actually an eminent microbiologist before he started working for the government. And he was an active part of the Baha'i community where I live, near where he lived, in Oxfordshire in England. And he, of course, most of us had no idea, or maybe none of us had any idea of what he was doing, because he was also a very private man, and he used to keep the different parts of his life, as it were, quite rather separate from each other. I mean, he did give a lecture about his work on the weapons inspection in Iraq, and that was really the first time that we learnt about his work.
There was a testimony that you had in writing and was never published to the public. It said that
I was asked to submit the headlines, as it were, of what I would say in testimony.
But why would it remain unseen to the public?
I don't think there's any significance in that at all. I mean, what I said, as you know, was published on the Hutton Inquiry website the same day. It was on, it was reported on the television, on the TV news, and in the newspapers. It was scarcely a secret, but there was literally no difference between what I wrote and what I said.
We did not uncover the information that was submitted to the Hutton Inquiry by the Baha'i Faith. We needed to take some desperate measures and put some money into our investigation. So we rented a Mercedes. We made contact with an investigative journalist who also gave evidence at the Hutton Inquiry. What do you think Barney Leith could have stated in an undisclosed to public material?
I suspect, and I'm talking off the top of my head, it would be something to do with the relationship with Mike Peterson. Somebody who is a bilingual translator, like Mike Peterson, is almost ipso facto an intelligence officer. And the problem was that David fell for her. And then suddenly, it's not any longer a formal relationship. She's a bit more than just the translator.
You think that the whole conversion thing was a matter of falling for a certain Miss Pedersen?
I don't think David would have adopted the Baha'i faith without the relationship with Mike Peterson. I think it was a coincidence of interests and events.
We Googled Miss Pedersen and found out that she lived in the U.S. Something else that caught our attention was an appeal by the American Frederick Glacier to study the connection between Kelly, Pedersen, and the Baha'i faith. The appeal was to investigators and journalists. Since we thought of ourselves as investigators and journalists, it was right up our alley. Before leaving the UK and going to the US, we paid a visit to the grave of David Kelly. If only these stones could talk. After many hours of flying, we landed in the US and headed to meet Frederick Glacier. Even though he agreed to the meeting, he had several conditions: to meet in a public place, to record the interview with his own camera, to bring his own witness, and that we sign a contract stating we are not Baha'is or sent by the Baha'i World Center in Haifa. My wonder is, why was it important to you to know that we are not Baha'is in any way or representative of UHJ?
I've been a Baha'i since 1976. I've seen many, many incidents throughout that time, prior to the upheavals even on the internet, of things not being what appears to be. Now, with David Kelly, there are enormous and profound questions of the Baha'i administration involvement there that have not been researched or covered in any satisfying way, to my mind. Was Kelly really revealing classified information to the Baha'i community? Was he being used by the Baha'i community? Was he a ploy in that? Then enters Mai Peterson, an American spy who's apparently a Kuwaiti in the military, and that whole scenario. She's been very hushed up. She was apparently played such an important role in his life, and yet was never really questioned and scrutinized about any possible involvement in his death. Also, her testimony was never heard by Lord Hutton. She refused to pass her testimony on, and that's a most disquieting fact.
While wrapping up his camera equipment, Glacier asked us not to film his car leaving the hotel. Driving to Monterey, Pedersen's last residence, according to the papers, it came to us that we were deep into the world of espionage. Having got all our knowledge about spying from B-movies we watched over the years, we were shocked to discover we will not be able to infiltrate Mike Pedersen's last workplace, better known as the U.S. government spy school. We decided to get friendly with Pedersen's Baha'i community members. Maybe it will lead us to her address.
Karen, do you know anything about the Baha'i Center?
The Chamber of Commerce most likely know about
Yeah,
that.
that's true. That's true. But let's just
Monterey, this is Senator Karen speaking. Hey.
Baha'i. Call for information.
We have mastered the art of spying to the highest level. We only used payphones and never the same one twice.
This is the information number for the Baha'i faith in northern Monterey County.
The quarter we invested paid off. We got the number of the secretary of the Baha'i Center in Monterey County. We were one step closer to finding Miss Pedersen.
Okay. This was my first pilgrimage to Haifa, Israel in 1982. That, of course, is the Universal House of Justice. They were just building that when I was there that time. This is the obelisk on the top of Mount Carmel, where eventually we will build a temple.
You know when that's going to happen?
As soon as we get enough Baha'is to get enough money together. It always comes down to money, doesn't it? No. I don't think I need those. May Pedersen? Yes. She really wasn't a member of our community, although I got her name on my last list that came from National, and she has moved to Arizona.
Oh.
Behind National Center.
My Pedersen's address was just a phone call away. We needed someone to make that call to the International Spiritual Assembly of the U.S. and Laverne agreed to do it.
May Pedersen.
Yeah, Pedersen.
Okay, now I found her. She, according to our list, she's in... Who am I speaking to first?
Oh, this is Laverne Vaughn, the corresponding secretary for the Salinas community.
Would you please give me your own Baha'i ID?
My Baha'i ID number is 0003414.
Why do you need to know where she is?
I am being filmed here from Israel with the Israelis on the Baha'i faith, and they want to know May Pedersen's phone number or address is. Can you give that to this young lady here?
I can, you know, I can't give her her phone number. I can't give nothing.
I'm glad to know National is awful protective of us, but that does make it hard. There is one person that you might really want to interview, or people, is the Vonbergs in Monterey. There's the Vonbergs.
Here is
there's May Pedersen.
We wrote down May Pedersen's last home address and left. Since our effort to keep a low profile was compromised, we needed to act quickly. We drove to the Vonbergs, who lived only 15 miles away. Somehow their name sounded familiar.
I became a Baha'i in 1975.
5 years later, I dragged it along. It was very good for us and recommend it. It's good therapy for anybody.
Does May Pedersen still belong to this community?
No,
No.
she lives back east now.
You're not in touch with her? Or are you?
Yes, she'll call one person or another and we trade information. We just found out she was married. She was very good in Arabic, and that's how she met David Kelly, if you're thinking about David Kelly. David became a Baha'i in our house.
Really?
Uh-huh.
She's been here many, many, many times.
But, I mean, they never talked about what they did, but I assume she was his translator in Iraq.
Now starting to connect some things that I've read. She made a phone call to you after the suicide of Mr. Kelly?
We don't know it was suicide.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I read in the paper.
Yes, we had a group here and we were studying the Baha'i writings on life after death, and the telephone rang and it was Maya, and she said, David's dead.
He said also, don't believe everything you read in the newspapers. They didn't know who to blame that war on, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, we better be a little careful here, I don't know.
I wanted to ask you one more question. You said earlier that
Honey?
You said about David Kelly that Mai did not believe that David
let's not say she questioned, let's put it that way.
And who would, if he didn't commit suicide, who would want?
I don't want to comment on that.
I don't know why it was only then that we realized that chasing a CIA agent and a dead scientist is a tad beyond our outstanding detective skills. We drove to Mai Pedersen's last known address. The clown on what used to be her door assured us that we will never comprehend the coincidence of interests and events that brought together these two spies to join a world peace religion.
Well, I don't know sort of the whole process of how Dr. Kelly ended up where he did. He was a scientist. He then worked for the United Nations. Interestingly enough, the Baha'i teachings ask Baha'is to avoid military service, combatant military service, on behalf of their nations, but do permit them to be part of a future world police force. So on the face of it, he was using his learning and professional skills in a way which is quite compatible, I think, when he became a Baha'i with the Baha'i teachings. David Kelly himself was not making a political statement, did not intend to take a position on one side or the other, and to claim, as some people have, that Kelly was part of some sort of a conspiracy to instigate the war is just nonsense. It doesn't agree with any of the facts. The Baha'i World Center was in the picture, let's say, because we were aware that this was a fairly hot subject and controversial, and the Baha'i institutions of the United Kingdom cooperated fully with the Hutton inquiry and all the other inquiries that were going on in parallel. And this was just as a matter of course, as a matter of obedience to government, and because the community had no particular axe to grind one way or another in the matter.
This is the last piece that my grandfather wrote. He was, I think, nearing the end, just 1 year before he died. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. God gives rules in mercy and justice.
At any point
Yes.
in the history you have with the
Yes.
jail,
Yes.
were you afraid?
No. I am only afraid of God. I am not afraid. What can they do? Kill me? God forbid. No. It doesn't reach that point. I'm not afraid. I'm living here, going to stay living here next door to them. I'm not moving.
How far are we right now from the garden?
Walking distance. I walk there every day. I pass. Neighbors.
Traveling half the world after Asaf's obsession brought me to the same point where it all started. Still wondering what I was doing there, but curious enough to stay to the end.
So this is the International Library.
Although we have seen the plans of the buildings, we were not sure what exactly we were looking for. That's the lowest level of the building?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the first level.
As we stepped out of the elevator, the smell of triumph grew bigger.
Laundry. Yeah, there are laundry facilities for the staff. So that's probably what you're smelling as a dryer.
Oh well, Triumph must smell like laundry.
Now, let's see. I don't think my key card works on this level.
Why?
I don't know. Because security has their own designations for everything. So we may have to walk up one more level. No, it doesn't work. Sorry. We have to walk up one more floor. Okay. Let's walk up. Well, it'll get stronger as we get closer to the dining room, which is on 4.
So the people here, they also eat here? And
Yeah, they'll cook for about 500 people.
every day?
Every day. We're still cleaning. That's like a custodial closet, I think.
We expected to meet some of the 500 people who just had chicken, but hardly met any.
We can walk up here if you want to.
What's above us?
Where are we? Well, I think that's where we were. The International Teaching Center. Yeah. I'd have to see a sketch. I don't really know now. I get so turned around in these buildings, honestly.
Supermarket?
There's a book center here for book sales for staff, and then there is a food center to support the staff. Yeah, so it's like a little small supermarket.
Yeah.
There was nothing odd about what we saw that far. We continued. Maybe there is more. There must be. And so we kept on going and going into the tunnels, which connected all the buildings we have seen on the outside.
So we can walk from here towards the UHJ?
Yeah.
What kind of shelter there is here?
Bomb shelters. You know, just as they're part of buildings construction, you have to build a bomb shelter.
This is the shelter?
I haven't been to this one. Looks like part of it's being used for storage.
On our way out from the shelter, we have realized that sometimes a bomb shelter is just a bomb shelter. We floated back to surface at the Universal House of Justice, the largest building on the hill. We were standing in what looked like an empty ballroom. Passing the vacuum cleaner, it seemed we have just missed the party.
The buildings are built with bomb shelters just as required by code. And they're built to accommodate the numbers of the people who work in the buildings, just as any other building would be built. So that, no, there are no special bomb shelters or any kind of special kinds of needs to accommodate any kind of apocalyptic visions or anything like that. We don't really have those. Baha'is see that the problems in the world are to be remedied through active engagement in human society, not in putting aside quantities of food or storing up resources for ourselves or building bomb shelters far in excess of what are required.
Disappointed, we walked down the stairs. Asaf, still obsessed, was pointing at the archive building, which they did not let us in. He was thinking about our next move. But I knew that failing to find the Holy Grail, there will be no more us in this quest.